Hey guys, welcome back. It's hCG Chica. This is episode 46 of the hCG Diet Interviews with Everyday People. I've got Denise with me here today. I don't know if she's on my right or left right now, but anyway, she's got a great story because um, she's going to really share the vicious cycle that a lot of us go through for part of our life when it comes to weight loss, the yo-yoing, the up and down. And she went through that with hCG for a while. But now, recently, she made a really big change. She's in a different place, and she's had a couple great P3s. And so it's going to be nice to hear her feedback on how she was able to make that change and just the contrast between how it felt before and how it feels now. So welcome, Denise.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I just love talking with all of you guys. I like to just jump right in. So tell me all of your basics, like your age and height, and if you have any health issues to give people an idea of who you are.
Okay, I'm 49. I'm short. I'm 5'2". And I started my hCG. My heaviest weight, I was 232 pounds, but I started my hCG journey at 205, and I'm currently at 144. And in P3, I'm at the latter part of P3 right now, and maintaining perfectly and stabilizing perfectly. So
That's great. I forgot to do the math. Like 205 to 144, that's like about 50 or 60 pounds. I don't know.
Yeah. I kind of lost count.
It's a lot. So that's a fantastic. And actually, from your very highest weight, it's actually more like 90 pounds or 88 pounds.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
My ultimate goal was to be 133, because then I could say I lost 100 pounds. 132. I lost 100 pounds, but as I started losing weight, I'm 49. Realistically, as I started to lose weight, I was like, you know what? I'm really happy the way I am. Once I got into the 140. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great to learn to be like reasonable about expectations and what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, why don't we get into talking about, tell us about your vicious cycle part of your journey with hCG, and then we'll get to the good part, the
Okay.
turnaround.
I think the vicious cycle has been all my life with yo-yo dieting in general. I was an up and down, try this, try that, gain weight, lose weight, never got as low as I did with hCG. But when I started the hCG, I think I did probably about 3 rounds, and I got down to, a really good weight. I was in the 140s, and I was really happy with that. And I thought, okay, now I can go back to eating. And even if I gain 20 pounds, I can do a round. And that's what happened. So I did another round. And when I did another round, I got back down, never got quite back down into the 140s. So, and I just yo-yoed like this continuously. It was horrible. And during that time, I was doing the drops. I knew about the injections, but I knew that they were, a lot more expensive. And the drops, I could buy drops for relatively cheap price and lose 20 pounds anytime I wanted to. So I did several rounds like that, and then got all the way back up to about 186 pounds or so, and got very depressed and thought, you know what, I'm just going to be a big girl. I'm going to be happy. I'm not going to do this anymore. And stayed there for a while, stayed in those 180s for a while. And more and more people were doing the injections. More and more people, I was reading a little bit more about the people's success with the injections. And I thought, you know what? I think this time I'm going to do the injections. And if I'm going to commit to doing the injections, I've got to get my mind right. I think that's such a big part of your journey is it's not just a body experience, it's a mind experience. So, I had watched a lot of your videos, a lot of your blogs, and some of the things that you have even gone through personally on your journey, and decided if I was going to do this one last time, I was going to do it. I was going to do it the right way. And you had mentioned the book by Robin Woodall, The Weight Loss Apocalypse. So I thought, I'm going to start watching videos, I'm going to start reading, and I'm going to get my mind in the right place that it needs to be so that I can do this and I can do it once and for all. And so that's what I did. I started again earlier this year. I have it in my notes somewhere when I actually started the first round, but I bought my injections. I knew a lot about hCG to begin with, the injection wise, because I went through several rounds of infertility. I have twin boys now. I'm an older mom.
Gotcha.
So, but we used hCG in a much different way. We took the whole vial.
Yeah, 5,000 shot, right?
That's 5,000 shot as a trigger shot. Yeah. So I was comfortable with giving myself the injections because I was used to that. So I bought my hCG and I started the round, and I was really, really happy with the injections. First of all, it was once a day. Second of all, I started to see quite a difference in how I was losing weight. I really felt like this time I wasn't losing as much muscle. I did not do any body composition, so I say this just from my experience, but I could tell I lost a shoe size. I didn't lose a shoe size the last time, and I knew that after I had finished my first round, when I was in my 150s, like in the 150s, I was wearing clothes that I did when I was at my lowest weight on the drops. So I could really tell a huge difference in how my body was reshaping with the injections.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I went through that round, and I lost, I think in my notes, I think I lost about 26 pounds or so in that round. It was about, I think, 35 or 36 days. I started to get really cranky about it.
Yeah. That
I think,
happens at the end.
yeah, I think everybody knows mentally when they're kind of
Yes.
done with it.
Yep.
And so I transitioned into P3, but P3 for me this time was a little bit different because again, I started that mind and body experience where, I was really starting to learn about myself a lot more. So I know everybody on all these, I'm on a lot of Facebook pages and things, and everybody's like, can't wait to get to P3. I want bacon. I want cheese. And all of my previous rounds, I was the same way. P3 is going to come, and I want to have bacon, and I want to have cheese, and then fathead pizza, and this, that, and the other. And then I started to realize I don't really even like bacon. I'm not a bacon person. Why am I looking forward to eating bacon? And so I approached P3 a lot differently. I decided, I'm going to eat fats. I want to eat fats, but I want to eat healthy fats. So I started having a lot of avocado and coconut butter and salmon and full fat yogurts and things like that, and found that my body was very happy with that. I would fill up from that, but it was good healthy fat, and it didn't make me feel crummy.
Yeah, right. That's awesome. Good. That's actually, you did a really good job of like kind of sharing the whole thing in one succinct story. That was awesome. No, that was great. And I wanted to tell you guys too, she mentioned Robin Woodall's book, Weight Loss Apocalypse. So we'll have a link to that in the show notes if you want to check it out. I highly recommend it. It's actually a book about the hCG protocol, but it's all about like the mental aspect of it and eating to hunger and just, why do we eat? Why do we overeat? Makes you think. So yeah, it's a good one.
It's really good.
Yeah, and I just appreciated you sharing just the whole journey because I felt like that first half with the yo-yoing and the kind of like you said using hCG as a crutch. I feel like that's almost a little bit like others are probably thinking you stole my life story because that's really what a lot of women end up going through because I think it is easy to think when you can lose weight quickly. It is easy to rationalize, right, in your head when you want to enjoy eating more. You're like, oh, but it would just be so easy to take this back off. And
I would go right back to fried chicken and French fries and ice cream and all the garbage stuff and it didn't even, that stuff doesn't make you feel good.
Right.
But there's something about it. It's like so comforting. And so, I would just use that excuse to go back to that all the time. And then I'd be like, yeah, this is not a big deal. I've got this under control. That's the way I would rationalize it in my head. I've got this. I'm going to do another round.
Yeah.
And I it was driving my husband absolutely insane because he was like, I don't know what you're eating this week. Phase two, phase three. I was driving him nuts. So,
Oh goodness, that's crazy. Yeah, it wouldn't be good if I were doing that because I definitely have to totally baby myself when I was doing the diet. So I
mhm.
wouldn't be really helpful to my family if I were having to do it all the time.
Yeah, it
But
is.
yeah, and it's good that you mentioned that like that you knew eventually that it was something that you needed to change because
Mhm.
it that type of thing does wreak havoc on our metabolism, right, over
Oh,
time
yeah.
and
Yeah,
you
so
know.
bad for you too. I mean, it really
Yeah.
is. It's so bad. And I've even had rounds. I remembered specifically watching some of your blogs, and you had
Yeah.
said that you had one round where you were just rationalizing within the round.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to add this. It's
Right.
about the same calories, and
Yeah.
I've done rounds like that too.
Those were the okay. I don't even know what the brand is anymore. They're probably fine to eat in P3, but not the way I was doing it. They were like these fiber cookies. They were like cookies made out of like supposedly fiber that you can't digest with like xylitol or erythritol, which I'm not against either of those things, but
Mm.
it was like I was eating that instead of vegetables and fruit. Like because you can only get the 500 calories. So yeah, and I'd eat one and then like, okay, I'm just gonna have the one and then I'd go and I was quilting at the time. I'd go out in the garage and I'd do some quilting and then I'd be like, maybe one more. And I'd go back and eat another one. And then before you knew it, it was like five of them. And then like, oh gosh, I can't eat anything else now today.
I'm going to drink a lot of lemon water and do a detox
Oh,
bath.
yeah, no, it was bad. No, because like you said, it didn't feel good in my tummy. Like it really didn't sit well. So yeah, I know
Yeah.
we do those crazy things, you know.
Yeah,
What do you
it was
feel like?
definitely.
Because I'm always curious about this. Sometimes we can't pinpoint exactly like what made us like have that mental shift. But I mean, do you feel like there was anything, any particular that did like, you know, why was it different this last time with the injections? Was it just doing more research and kind of letting it sink in, or what helped you change?
I think it was a little of that. It was definitely a lot of that. That kept me on track a lot.
Yeah.
Um, the fact that, I would go in my closet. I have a big closet. I would go in my closet and I have size 16s and I have size 14s and I have size 12s and 10s and 8s. And I'm like,
Wow.
this is crazy. What am I
That's true.
doing?
That's
I
true.
have two little ones. I have twin 6-year olds.
Oh,
And
you're 6.
yeah, I've got twin 6-year olds, and I was like, if I'm gonna inject a hormone into my body, because I know, hormones can be, because of my background with doing
Yeah.
so many rounds of IVF and everything,
Right.
hormones can really wreak havoc on your body. And I ended up having a hysterectomy with all the hormone stuff that I had done for so many years. I'm like, if I'm gonna do this, I need to do it and be done with it and maintain and be healthy. I need to be around for my kids. I'm an older mom, and so I just, that's kind of where my mind was at the time. I'm looking at my kids and I'm thinking, I want to be around when they graduate high school. I want to be around when they get married. So that was the driving force. And then going on and just really researching and watching videos and hearing people's stories. You are such a godsend,
Oh,
and
thank you.
you really are, because posting of all these stories and all these from all these people. First of all, I write down so many things. I write
Cool.
down little tips and everything. Even the last interview that I watched, I think, was interview 40, and she was, I think, one of the ones that said, she sees a lot of people doing this yo-yoing back and forth, and I was like, yeah, that's me. That was me. That was, totally me. So, you get little bits and pieces and glimpses into other people's lives and into their journeys. And although everybody's story is different, like, you said, our journeys are so similar. And so, yeah, that's when I started to do a lot of research and say, okay, this is it. I'm going to do this. I want to have nice clothes and I want to be around for my kids and I want all those things that everybody wants.
Yeah.
Every girl wants that.
Yeah.
So I think everybody wants that. So,
Yeah. No, those are nice thoughts. Yeah. So it sounds like it was just really like a combining of certain things sinking in about where
mhm.
you were at in life and looking to the future and then your research and just kind of it all coming together, you
Yeah,
know. Yeah,
yeah.
and I think that that's possible for everyone. It's just going to be a different point in their journey for everyone, you know. Um, like for you guys watching Denise, I think she said she had 3 rounds with the back and forth
Hmm.
before you, and then you've done other diets in the past. So it's a lot of us have done that. So don't feel like because that's all you've kind of known up to this point that that's kind of all you're destined to do. Like it's easy to stop believing in yourself. I think
Oh,
I felt
yes.
like when I originally found HCG, I was like you, where I felt like, okay, I'm just gonna be heavy the rest of my life. I'm gonna like figure out what being happy, being heavy means, like, and just be cool with it. Because I couldn't really figure a way out that was successful. I just was like, okay, that's it. And if that's how it has to be, fine. But it is nice when you start figuring things out. And you
Hmm.
can make that change, and it is possible, even if all you've done before is what seems like failures.
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh yeah. And and I totally understand it. I get it. And when I see other people doing it on the different Facebook pages and things that I'm on, I definitely am not judging them because I have been there and I
yeah.
have done that.
Yeah.
But once that light bulb goes off and it clicks in you, it's such a different journey too.
Mhm.
It's like everything changes, and I now eat to hunger.
It's
And
awesome.
I realized, wow, I can eat 2 ounces of yogurt in the morning, and
Yeah.
a little bit of walnuts and a little bit of the sugar-free jam, and I'm completely fine.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, I still get that. Oh, I could have a kind bar, or I could have this, and I'm like, why? I'm not hungry. So I have to, sometimes I have to continuously remind myself,
Right.
I'm not hungry. That's just my head speaking.
Yeah. Have a little
And
chat with yourself.
yeah, exactly. So, and it's just, I don't know, it's just like that light bulb went off and everything switched, and it's awesome. And I hope it stays that way. I want it to stay
Yeah.
that way. My next step is to, get into a gym. I want to start working out.
That'd be
So
awesome.
I'm excited
Yeah.
about that.
I really think that like those things can kind of last, because it's like I think you'll always have time periods where it's harder, or maybe you do slip up a little bit, but
Mhm.
like the longer that you have your new way of life, it's like becomes such a part of you now and ingrained in a habit that
Mhm.
you usually don't get off track for long. Someone actually, I can't remember where this was from, so I can't give the source, but someone talked about what a habit is, and they said a habit is when let me see if I can say this right. Hold on, I'm gonna mess it up. Hold on. A habit is when of not the pain of not doing something is greater than the pain of doing something. Hope I
That's
didn't
true.
mess it up. Is it switched? But basically, where it's like it's more painful to not, like what I mean. Like for me
Mhm.
with CrossFit, let me just give an example. It's more painful for me to stay home than to go, just because it's such a habit
Yeah.
that like I'll be really bothered if I don't go. And so it's really just easier for me to go, even though when I go work out, of course, it's really hard and it's easier in a sense to sit on my couch, you know?
Yeah, of
But
course.
mentally,
You
it's
have
just
that time
easier
back.
to go. Like, I'm just going to feel better if I go. I need to go. So I just go. And so I thought that was a neat way to explain it. And that does happen, I think, where even if you get off for a few days, it's easier to bring yourself back in line just because that's now your habit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. I think
Yeah.
you said it right too.
I don't know. I'll have to think about this later. Like, wait a minute, I think whatever. But you guys get what I mean. That's great. That's great. Um, so let's see, where are we with what we were chatting about? Oh, I wanted to, what I thought maybe I could ask you if you don't mind. This wasn't in the notes, but since you were talking about eating to hunger, and which is kind of Robin's method for learning how to eat the right amount for your body instead of calories, would you want to share your personal experience of like for people who aren't familiar with what eating to hunger is, like what is it and how do you do it on a given day?
Well, it's really easy. It's just being in tune with your body. And I know that probably sounds harder than it really is. I think, once you get to that point, and I think I really recommend her book because it explains it. So, and there's different scenarios and there's different people and testing that she's done with different people. So, it gives you some perspective. But for me, when I get up in the morning, I don't like automatically say to myself, oh, it's breakfast. It's time to eat breakfast. I do eat breakfast every day, but I don't eat breakfast at 7 a.m. I have to have breakfast, and breakfast is bacon and eggs. And, that's not, I get up, and when I start to feel, a little bit of a hunger pain, at that point, I go in and I make breakfast. And usually what I make for breakfast is it's a good choice. Like I said, it's yogurt with some nuts, and I try to have a fat in there, at least one fat in with every meal. And lunch doesn't have to be at noon. Lunch might be at 1. Lunch might be at 11:30. At 11:30, if my stomach starts to growl, I get up and I'm like, I'm gonna go heat up my lunch, and I go and I have lunch. So, and then there's times that I can go, and I usually do eat 3 meals a day. I mean, I do. I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but I don't always have a snack. I don't always have to in the evening have a snack, especially if I go out and walk. It's been so nice,
Yeah,
weather-wise,
yeah.
that I've been going out for a walk in the evenings. And when I come back, normally, it's 6 o'clock or it's 7 o'clock. I gotta have my apple. When you're on phase 2, I gotta have my apple. I
Yeah,
gotta get
yeah,
that apple. And
yeah.
if I'm not hungry, I'm not gonna have a snack. If I am, I might have an apple with some almond butter or something. Again, I always mix that fat in there. But yeah, it's just a whole new. It's a freedom, really, because you're not constantly looking and saying, okay, oh, it's time to eat. I got to stop everything. It's time to have breakfast. I got to stop everything. It's time to have lunch. And also in her book, she also talked a lot about, when you go to a function, functions don't always have to be about food. You
Right.
know, as a society, we kind of live our lives to eat, and socializing and eating is a big part of it. So like we have a lot of functions at work where, they'll have food. It's food that I can't really have, or I don't choose to eat at this
Mhm.
point in my life. So before I go into that function, I'll either eat before I go into it, or they had a baby shower last weekend, and it was or last week, and it was like at 3 o'clock. I'd already had my lunch, so I excused myself from the baby shower where everybody was snacking and eating, and then came back in when they were playing the games and
Yeah.
opening the gifts.
Nice.
It's just I chose to remove myself from that situation so that I wasn't tempted to eat something that I
Right.
didn't need because I wasn't hungry.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I do it now.
That's great. Yeah, I like that you brought that out about functions not having to be about food.
Yeah.
Because it is true the vast majority of the time that's how we tend to think of it, and that is often a lot of times when I would end up really overdoing it in the past, and then you come home and feel all yucky, and and yeah, nowadays for me too, I've just kind of like, I don't know, pruned off that connection in my brain over time, so that yeah, I already know I don't. There's certain things I don't eat, or certain things I just don't eat at functions because I know I'm gonna just totally overdo it. I'm like distracted by everybody, and then I'm just gonna be like,
Yeah,
ah,
like
scarfing
chips and
stuff
things like that.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, you get used to that, and you do make it more about the people and the
Yeah.
enjoyment.
You enjoy the actual function a lot.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
used I used to kind of live my life where everything revolved around. I'm sorry, my dog is
Oh, it's
barking.
fine. Yeah.
Everything revolved around food. Even like if we were going to go on vacation, I was really a food addict. I
Yeah.
mean, absolutely 100% addicted to food.
Yeah.
If we were going to go on vacation, I would Google the city that we were going to be in and say, what are the top restaurants in the city? And I would look at the menus. I knew what I was going to eat. It was
That's
crazy.
funny.
I was so food driven before, and so I know if I could do it, anybody can do it. You
Yeah.
can make that life change. You really can, because food really monopolized so much of my time and my I
Yeah.
remembered you saying one time that you would drive someplace to have this chocolate cake that you really liked.
Yes.
That was totally me. I mean, I there was no limits to where
Right.
we would drive to
Yeah,
get
if it's
something
there,
else.
it's like pushing, it's driving you to do it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's been a big change for me to have that a totally different mindset about food. Food is fuel for my body. I still enjoy food.
Right.
I will always enjoy food. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with enjoying your
Right.
food, but
I agree.
it's just it's in a different way now.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree. I'm really glad that you stated it that way too, because I think there's like the two extremes where it's like you live for food, and then where it's like food is only fuel and it's nothing else. And I'm more with you where it's like food tastes good. Like, I mean, there's a reason for that.
It
I don't.
does.
I think it's great to enjoy it. I mean, I love enjoying my lunch. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I
I
don't
was
do it
stuck at
purely to make my muscles grow, or
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I
you
mean,
know.
my husband's like that. My husband is like, food is, and I would get mad at him, because he and I were, we were both very heavy for a long period of time, and his journey happened a long time ago. He's been maintaining his his weight for years now, and he's
Nice.
very thin. And he
Nice.
eats food just for fuel. He doesn't
Wow.
really does nothing really excites him when it comes to food.
Yeah.
And I was totally opposite, and I would get so mad. Like I just told him this recently. I was like mad at you because you didn't want to go and indulge and have fun with food with me. And he's like, yeah, but now you get it. And I'm like, yeah, I understand it a lot
Okay.
more. But I also enjoy finding a way to make recipes that I enjoy, a lot healthier, and
Nice.
that's like my passion. That's why culinary hCG on Instagram.
Bella,
I like,
yes.
yes, I love Bella because I feel like she's very much like me. She loves to cook, and so she'll find different ways of being able to, to have the things that she likes, but in a healthier version. And I do that. I
Yeah.
had pumpkin cheesecake on phase 3 on my last round. It was
Nice.
pumpkin time. Everybody was having pumpkin this and pumpkin that. I wanted to have something pumpkin, so I just made a sugar-free. I use xylitol. I
Yeah.
even use xylitol in my rounds because I hate stevia. I hate
My
it.
husband does too.
I wish I could like it.
Yeah.
I see all these people and they're like, "Oh, these stevia drops are
It's such an acquired
delicious."
taste. I mean, I love it. No, but yeah, my husband, if he gets something accidentally with stevia in it, he will literally spit it out in the sink.
I
He'll
will
be like,
too.
"Ugh."
Poison to me. I don't know. There's a lot of people love it, and that's
Yeah.
great.
Well,
But
no,
for
that's why it's nice that we have xylitol and erythritol is another great
yeah,
sugar alcohol for you guys. Yeah.
and I use xylitol in phase 2.
Yeah. Cool.
So it worked for me. I know there's a lot of controversy. I think you were probably going to ask me about this, about coconut oil.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and
Yeah,
talk about that.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of controversy about it. On my last 2 rounds, my 2 injectable rounds, very successful rounds, I did use coconut oil,
Yeah.
and so I would make chocolate delight with with the xylitol, the cocoa powder, and the coconut oil,
Yeah.
and I had, a piece or two, not
Yeah.
every single night, but I
Yeah.
would have a little piece or two. I I read it and did enough research to know that 2 tablespoons, I think, is like the limit per day.
Mm.
I never quite really had 2 tablespoons. 2 tablespoons of coconut oil is a lot of coconut oil. I know
Yeah.
you can, and there's a lot of women that
Right.
do, and they're fine with it.
Hmm.
But I used a little bit, like if I wanted to cook some vegetables or brown some vegetables, I would
Yeah.
use a little bit in my vegetables, and then I would save myself like 1 or 2 little pieces of the chocolate delight for the occasions that I wanted to have it.
Gotcha.
I
Cool.
even made chocolate dipped strawberries. I would make the
Oh.
chocolate delight and then dip the strawberries and put them in the refrigerator. And it
Nice.
wasn't an everyday thing, but if I felt like having it, and I lost
Yeah.
weight the next day. Sometimes I almost felt like sometimes it helped me. Like I
Yeah.
would, on days that I would have the coconut oil, I would get up the next day and have a 1 pound loss. Could have
Yeah.
been coincidental. I don't
Yeah.
know if I would have lost it anyway,
Right. Hard
but
to
it
say.
didn't seem to affect my losses.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think in about 2 tablespoons is. I think there's what about a little over 100 calories or 120 calories per tablespoon of oil,
I
something like
think
that.
so.
So like
But I
240.
have I never counted it in with my
Hmm.
calories. I'm like you. Counting
Yeah.
calories puts me in a bad mood
Oh
too.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
never counted calories. I know a lot of people that count calories even in phase 2. I never counted
Right. I
calories.
did my very first round just because I was so,
Yeah. Yeah, it
didn't
was
know what
new
I
to
was
me.
doing. But yeah, after that, I'm like, oh, I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. Thanks for sharing your experience on that. It's like, it's always useful to get people's different experiences with things. So you did that with both of your injection rounds.
Yeah.
Now, and also I wanted to give a shout out to Bella since we were talking about her. If you're listening, Bella, because I think she listens, we're talking about you. And if you guys know who we're talking about, on Instagram, on Culinary HCG, all one word, at Culinary HCG, you can follow her on Instagram. She's got great recipe ideas, and we'll have a link to her Instagram in the blog post. She also has a website now too, culinaryhcg.com. She's just so clever with recipes. So eventually, I'm hoping she'll have like a phase 2 cookbook. So just
Yeah, that would be
frequent her
great. Every
thing
phase 3, yeah.
so you can be notified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I would buy it.
yeah. No, she's so creative. I love that.
Oh.
Now let's see, what were we? Okay, well, since we're talking about kind of some phase 2 things right now, you also mentioned that so just so you guys know, the coconut oil that Denise is talking about it's considered rogue or off protocol,
Mhm.
so which is fine just as long as you're aware of it, so you're making a conscious decision. that some use and some don't. And it's very interesting across the board as far as people's like feedback on what happens after they have it. Like some people feel like it helps their lysis, other people feel like they just totally stalled, and so it's
Yeah.
just really different. It's
I think,
interesting.
yeah, I think, and
So
I think any rogue item, because I am a little bit roguish,
yeah.
any rogue item, I feel can be that way. I
Hmm.
think you have to, if you want to test the waters with
Right.
it, it's kind of at your own risk.
Right. Yeah.
But also when I think when you're testing the waters with, and it's hard to do this because you're eating 500 calories, you're in deprivation mode,
Hmm.
and you don't see your losses on the scale next day, but sometimes give it a couple of days because it might just be that you would have been stalled the next day anyway.
Right.
But on phase two, I ate zucchini,
Right.
broccoli, green beans,
Green
and
beans. You
trying to
mentioned
think.
peppers and mushrooms.
Yes, peppers and mushrooms.
And you said watermelon too. I was curious about how much watermelon you would eat on a day.
I did watermelon on my absolute last round, and there was a reason for it. The last round that I did was a very bumpy, rocky, crazy round for me.
Yeah.
I always, whenever I plan my rounds, I like to plan it where I have, pretty much no obviously no vacations planned, no weddings, no big birthday parties, nothing like that. And because I have 6-year-old twins, I like to plan them when I'm not sick.
Yes.
Yeah, because you
Seriously.
catch everything when you have little ones.
Totally.
So my
I just
second,
got over a cold
yeah,
from
yeah,
my son's gymnastics class.
exactly. I mean, I've like caught everything. I catch everything, pink eye, the whole 9 yards. It doesn't matter. They bring it home and they bring it to me.
Oh.
But I had just my last round, I had just gotten over a cold, and I thought, okay, I'm good to go. I'm really good to go.
Should
I
be
can
safe
do
for a
this
while.
for, yeah, and I knew I was doing a short round. I can do this for 21 or 30 days, because I just had this cold and it's in the bag. About 3 or 4 days into the round, I got a relapse of that cold.
Oh.
Yeah. So, right away, right off the out of the gate, I was sick. But, I when I commit to a round, I commit to it. I might be a little roguish, but I do commit to it, and I want to see it fully through, especially because it was an injectables round.
Right.
So, I suffered my way through it. I knew I had remembered you made mushroom soup. Yes. So
So
I made the
good.
mushroom soup. It was just
Nice.
water and chopped up mushrooms and a little bit of onion, and it made like a nice broth, like you
Mm-hmm.
said. And,
Nice.
I just put a little bit of thyme and some rosemary in it, and it was great. It was
Cool.
perfect. So I had a lot of soup. I drank a lot of herbal tea, and I felt very dehydrated, like
Yeah.
always dehydrated because, you're
You're
so.
sick. Right.
So I thought, you know what, I'm going to try watermelon because I want watermelon and it's got a lot of hydration.
Right.
And I'm going to give it a couple of days and see how I do with it.
Yeah.
And so I ate watermelon every day. It was the
Wow.
only fruit that I ate the entire last round. I ate it
Oh,
twice a day.
gotcha.
And I pretty much ate it every day. I don't think I had an apple or a strawberry that whole
Well,
last round because I was enjoying it, so I looked
yeah.
forward to having it.
Yeah. How
But
much would you say do you know about how much you ate? Or I'm just curious.
Um, I, my husband would cut up, like wedges about this big, and I
Yeah.
had a relatively small bowl, so
Yeah.
I would probably eat maybe four, wedges
Yeah.
about this big. So nice portion, enough to
Yeah.
where I felt hydrated with it. It
Yeah.
satisfied that little bit of sweet. I didn't turn to the chocolate delight,
Yeah.
because at night because I was eating that. So really on my last round, I don't know that I ate any chocolate delight, but I did use the coconut oil for vegetables and cooking.
Gotcha. Which was probably a tiny amount because you know how like even a teaspoon of coconut oil, honestly, it like spreads in your
It
pan and it's like,
does.
whoa, that's a ton.
It
I don't
does.
know
And
how it does
I
that.
don't, and I like the taste of coconut, but I don't like the taste of coconut on everything.
Yeah.
But I also used MCT oil, minimum
Yeah.
chain triglyceride oil.
Yeah.
I buy the Now version. I think it's called Now or what Now.
Yeah.
And I would make salad dressing out of that with no sugar added balsamic vinegar.
Cool.
So, I occasionally had that as well
Yeah.
in my last round, but I really didn't eat much chocolate delight because the watermelon was very satisfying.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just what's nice about what you're sharing is that it goes to show that there can be room for
Yeah.
adjustments. Just like I've made it like the mushrooms, I did that on my last round, and you just want to just be mindful about how you do it. Like she tried things out, and it's interesting. Like you said, you had the watermelon, but you didn't have other P2
Right.
fruits, and you weren't having chocolate delight too, and like having tons of stuff.
Yeah,
So
because
it
then you'd never
seems,
figure it out.
yeah, and it seems like it probably balanced out,
Hmm.
as far as
Hmm.
that goes. So yeah, that's really interesting. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, very good. And also, I wanted to mention too, that's great that you were able to eat your chocolate delights within reason, like one
Hmm.
piece or something. Because you might have recalled this. The one time there was a while that there was also like a lemon version with the
Hmm.
coconut, or I mean, sorry, the coconut oil and lemon juice and the xylitol or whatever. And I mean, they were so good, but I ate like the whole plate. Like they were in the fridge, and like I just couldn't stop myself because they were so good. And
Yeah.
obviously on P2, that's not a good idea. So, so like that's like for me, I realized like I just can't control myself.
Yeah.
So, but you were able to. So that's why again, it's just gonna be you have to be honest with yourself
Hmm.
to make those decisions.
Yeah, well,
So,
you had said that you had a sugar addiction. I had
yeah,
just a general food addiction.
just food.
Yeah, it was like all food, carbs,
Yeah,
and I'm Italian, so
yeah.
pasta
All
and
the
breads and things
pasta.
like that are like my big weakness.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see if if somebody has a sugar addiction, if you're going to add something like some chocolate delight or some kind
Yeah.
of candy or something, it can easily, I'm sure, get out of control. So
Yeah, yeah. So it's good to
be
just weigh those different
precautions.
things. Now you mentioned that with your 2 injection rounds, there was two things I wanted to talk about. I'm trying to think of the order. You mentioned that you did a clean load on at least one of them. Is that
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I clean loaded in the beginning, especially when I was doing the drops because I didn't really know any. Well, actually, I clean loaded on my last round and I dirty loaded on when I was on the drops because I didn't know
Gotcha.
about clean loading.
Yeah, and just so real quick for everyone who doesn't know what clean loading is, I'll have a blog post link in the show notes. And just in a nutshell, clean loading is just a term to describe like when you load for the 2 or 3 days
Mhm.
on the high fat, you don't eat like sugar and carbs. Like you try to keep that out and just really focus on high fat and protein, low carb vegetables. And
Mhm.
yeah, so that's just what that is. So yeah, so tell us how that went. And I'm curious, like what types of stuff you ate when you were clean loading. I get asked that a lot.
Okay. Um, I think as you start to do multiple rounds and you get closer and closer to your goal, the concept of dirty loading or loading the regular way, as people know it to be, you can gain, you can gain 10 pounds. I
You
mean,
can, yeah,
it's easy to gain 10 pounds. And I
right.
did not want to go backwards to go forwards. And I
Mhm.
knew that the last round that I was doing was going to be I wanted it to be a short round. My birthday's in November. I wanted to be completely done and happy with myself,
Yeah,
by my birthday.
yeah.
So clean loading, I ate, lots of avocado. It was
Nice.
all, yeah, like you said, no sugar, no carbohydrates, but lots of fats, lots of healthy fats. Everything, slathered up with coconut butter. I also like Kerrygold. I'm a big fan of the
Me
Kerrygold butter,
too.
fed butter. Lots of that. You can make hollandaise sauce, but a hollandaise sauce with like a cream cheese base. You can make that, or butter and
Nice.
eggs, sour cream, nuts, peanut butter with no sugar in it. Again, I would make the chocolate delight, but I would make it with peanut butter and like peanut butter cups
Ooh,
in the inside.
nice. That sounds so
Yeah,
good.
have those. I just stayed away from what I normally would have had, which would be fried chicken, French fries, donuts,
Gotcha.
all of that stuff. I eliminated all of that, and I only gained 3 pounds.
Cool.
Yeah, I was really happy with that because I am one of these people. I'm not lucky enough. I see a lot of people, they'll be like, I loaded and I lost a pound. Yeah, that does not happen for me. I load and I have gained 10 pounds
Yeah.
loading before.
Oh
And
wow.
I know it comes off in the first few days, but
Usually, but
yeah,
not
usually.
always.
No. And the leaner, it seems like the leaner you get, the harder it is to get that loading weight off, the more days it takes, I think, sometimes to get that
Yeah.
initial loading weight off. And again, everybody's different. Some
Right.
people just naturally, and it drops off in a day or two. But
Right.
for me, it wasn't always like that. Like you said,
Yeah.
it could take 4 or 5 days. Well, when you're doing a 21-day round and you're spending 4 or 5 days losing 10 pounds that you already had lost
I
before,
know.
it can be a little depressing,
Oh
and
yeah.
I didn't want to do that. So that's why I chose to do it. I mean, you can do loading any way you want,
Right.
any way you see fit. Dr.
Yeah.
Simeon's protocol,
Hmm.
said cakes and pies and all that. But like you
Yeah.
said, I mean, that was so many years ago,
Yeah.
and things have changed. But I think your mindset as you're starting, and I think a lot of people experience this as you're going through it. I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forwards. I see so many people say that. So
Right.
clean loading is a great way to go. Just
Yeah.
load up on, all the good stuff,
Yeah.
and it comes off pretty quick.
Yeah. No, those are great thoughts. Yeah, it's kind of just one of those things where it's just less risky if you want
Mhm.
to be safe. I haven't really had anyone report anything bad happening from clean loading yet, so it's kind
Yeah,
of like one of those things where it's like loading regular with pastries and stuff may be okay, but it may
mhm.
not. There is a risk. But with clean loading, you're pretty much pretty safe. It seems like when it comes to not gaining too much and it coming off pretty quickly, and then still feeling pretty good the
Yeah.
first week on the diet. So it's kind of just nice if you just want to be sure.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, and I by no means was fragile in clean loading, and
Yeah.
I don't think anybody should be. I think, Dr. Simeon's really pushed
Yeah.
get in the fats.
Yeah.
I ate ribeye steaks and
Yes.
put butter all over it, and,
Right.
made sure that I really, put those
Put
fats.
effort into it.
Yes, and filled up my fat stores the way, I think the
Right.
protocol is meant to be,
Yeah.
but without all that additional
Right.
weight that I
Yeah.
need to get off.
Yeah. In fact, if any of you guys out there want to have like just a little bit of an example, it's not super detailed, but on my final round, I did actually track my calorie intake on my clean load. I did the 2 days and I ended up consuming 4,000 calories each day.
Hmm.
So yes, it was definitely high calorie, even though there was no grain and no sugar.
Yeah.
But and I have a list of like what types of stuff I ate, and just like Denise said, that's basically what I did. I tried to like add fat to everything. So yeah, if I was having some like flaxseed bread, that was low carb, I would put a lot of butter. Or if I had rack of lamb or a steak, I would add butter, which normally I wouldn't. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're just like adding, or I mixed
That's so
yogurt with
delicious.
sour cream or something like that.
Yeah,
Like
I mean, it's still delicious. It's still
yeah.
really good.
Oh
I
yeah.
still enjoyed it,
Oh
but I
yeah.
enjoyed it. And then I didn't get all that detox headaches. I see so many people, and
Oh.
I want to tell them, oh, don't do it. They're like, I'm drinking Coke. And I want to
Oh.
say, don't drink Coke. It's
Yeah.
not helping you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It really doesn't do much to help, to
Yeah.
fill up your fat stores. And oh my gosh, those detox headaches can be so bad the first few days. And it's
That's
hard, you
true.
go from as you go through rounds, it's not as hard, but especially in the beginning when you're doing the first 1 or 2 rounds and you're drinking soda and eating candy bars and you have all that sugar in your body, going from that and then going into 500 calories is hard enough
Yeah.
without having, and then you add in all those headaches that you get, and it's like,
Right.
wow. And you can have them for a good five
It's
days.
true. Yeah. So since you've done both, you definitely did feel different on the first week, clean loading versus dirty loading?
Oh yeah, a huge difference. A huge difference. I felt so much better, and I only do 2 days.
Yeah.
I know that's another controversy. People go back and forth. Oh, it takes 3 days to get the. And I think if you're doing drops, maybe a 3 day load might do a little bit
Yeah.
better. But when you're doing injections, and we kind of touched on this a little bit. I'm a really big fan of the injections over the drops. In my research and in my experience, I feel like the injections, you're injecting it straight into your blood system. It's not going through your digestive system. When things go through your digestive system, you have stomach acids and all those things that break your foods down. And I feel like when you're doing the drops, that by the time that hCG goes through that whole cycle of your digestive system, how much are you actually getting of the hCG into your body, versus the injecting it straight into your system. So
Yeah. And it
I just
sounds kind of like also that the drops you did were like homeopathic ones. Is that right? Or were they actually?
I bought them at a
So
store.
then they were. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I bought my first couple of rounds. I bought them at a store, and then all of a sudden the store didn't sell them anymore because
Mm,
I think they started cracking down on those. And
right.
then I'm not sure if I can say brands, but I started to do one of the Omnitrition. I started to
Okay.
do the Omnitrition drops.
Okay.
Those you can't buy at a store, and those actually have the hCG in it because the formula is written on the side. You know, they
Yeah.
say to look for that formula.
So, but
That's
you mean it has like the homeopathic imprint of
Yes,
it, right?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't buy them from a doctor. Now, maybe the ones that you get from the doctors, maybe they're a little bit different. But
Yeah.
again, I feel like going through your digestive system,
Right.
I don't know. It's got to be, and I could tell a huge difference when I did the shots. And not to give TMI or anything, but
Yeah.
you know how your breasts can get very, very. I would have like my breasts were really super tender and
Yeah.
sensitive. I felt I had
I've
even when
heard
I
that
was
before. They're
yeah,
like, this is like when I was pregnant. Like, why do I
yes.
feel like this?
Even when I was loading, I felt like I almost had morning sickness, like that
Interesting.
that that dull nausea that you
Huh.
have like in the back, and you're like, I really want to eat this ribeye steak with the butter on it, but and
Yeah.
you're cramming it in, and you're thinking,
Yeah.
but my stomach, I almost I almost felt like that pregnancy feeling that you get.
Yeah.
I never got that from any of the
Interesting.
drops. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe I can just throw out a little more information out there for you guys too. So with the homeopathic HC, because here's what this is actually just happened the other day. Because I'm trying to explain. So there are prescription drops, but when you get prescription drops, you're going to be mixing them yourself. So there's no way you're getting a bottle that's already mixed of
Right.
liquid that's prescription like the full 100% hormone, because the reason for that is once it's mixed, it's very unstable. So its shelf life's very short. It's got to be refrigerated. So you can, like with one of my sources online, they do offer a drops kit now, but it comes to you as an hCG powder. So it's the same powder we use for injections. You're just mixing it for sublingual use. So there's that. Anything that you buy that comes as a liquid online or in a store is going to be either homeopathic or hormone free now
Mm-hmm.
drops, which they have, which I don't feel I that's upsetting to me because it's very misleading. It's like
Mm-hmm.
hCG hormone free drops. Like
Yeah.
so how can you call it that then?
It's
It's
just a
like
bunch of amino acids
like
and
steak
stuff.
free steak and it's like broccoli. Like I don't get this. But
Yeah.
anyway, so the confusing part here is that like when someone was trying to figure out like, well, is there hCG in the drops, and I was trying to explain, well, it's not the real hormone, and she's like, well, I emailed the company and they said, well, there is hCG in it. Well, like, okay, technically yes, there is hCG in it, but and I'm a believer in homeopathics, so I'm not downing that at all. It's just that so with the homeopathic, it's like there's an imprint. It's a very 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 tiny amount. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like in relation to like what we're taking is completely different.
Yeah.
And here's the thing that has stuck with me for a long time, which I haven't found the logical answer to yet, which is why I feel less comfortable with homeopathic. Is someone was like, well, you haven't really heard of homeopathic birth control or other homeopathic hormones. And that kind of stopped me. I was like, that's true. I don't know of any. I even researched, I'm like, is there homeopathic birth control? Like, maybe there is. I could take it.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome. And I'm like, now or homeopathic progesterone or estrogen. Hormones are so powerful. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a very different thing than like a homeopathic preparation of something. I don't know anybody who would feel comfortable doing homeopathic like birth
Yeah.
control and
Yeah. I'd
then
like to see the people
going
that
at it.
went to trial.
Yeah, so that's the one difference that stopped me, that made me realize that, because like I've had a homeopathic thing that helped my son with his eczema, like gone overnight. Like,
Mhm.
so I believe in that type of thing.
Oh,
But
yeah.
this is different. You're actually the hormone or like testosterone, like muscle growth, like you just can't replace a hormone with something else,
Yeah.
for the
Well,
job it's doing.
I guarantee you, ask most bodybuilders, they're not putting the hormone, HCG hormone drops under
Right.
anyone's tongue. I mean, they're shooting HCG because it's going right into their system. It's going to give them the results that they need. I mean,
Yeah, so anyway, not to like harp on it, you guys, but just it's just food for thought that
yeah.
like there's just those questions that I'm like, there's just not a logical answer to that question. And so I just feel like, we only have our one body.
Hmm.
And so it's like you want to get the best result you can if possible, not have to do it more times. And then I thought that was interesting what you shared about your size difference with the drops versus the injections. Um, Can I just read what you wrote real quick?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
So you just said, I lost weight on the drops, which you will because
Yeah.
you lose weight on the diet actually because of the low calorie. So even if you take nothing, you will lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
The hormone is protecting your muscle and changing your hunger. So she said, I lost weight on the drops, but now that I've done both, it's my opinion that a lot of that weight was muscle with the drops. I definitely lost fat. So, of course, you will always lose some fat, but I also lost muscle. The reason I feel this way is because I'm so much leaner at 144 from the injections than I was at 141 from the drops.
Mm-hmm.
So, you said at 141 after the drops, you were in a snug size 10, a large fitting top.
Mm-hmm.
But at 144, 3 pounds higher with the injections, you're actually a size lower, comfortable size 8, and a comfortable medium.
Yep.
So, meaning that likely she lost a much larger percentage of her weight as fat with the injections because of her size being different. So it's just, yeah, again, food for thought, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean everybody's got, like I said, I did lose weight on it.
Right.
Everybody's got to do what they're comfortable with,
Right.
but just from my experience, it's just, in my journey, that's the conclusion that I've come to for me.
Yeah. And you mentioned also that you weren't hungry on the injections.
Oh no, not at all. That was
That's
a huge
great.
difference too. Yeah, I'm
That's
glad you
nice.
brought that up.
Yeah.
There was you're gonna crack up, but there was times that I was eating mustard packets when I was on the drops.
Oh, really?
So hungry
Oh,
that
poor
I would
baby.
like open up a mustard packet and I'm like,
Oh,
yeah,
that's
because
sad.
I was just so hungry.
Oh gosh.
On the injections, I was never hungry. I was never.
Wow.
I mean, when it came to be
Sure.
mealtime,
Yeah.
obviously you're gonna get hunger. You get a little hunger pain. Oh, it's time to eat.
Right.
But wow, I mean, a tremendous difference. And I just talked one of my girlfriends into doing the injections too. She just completed her injections round.
Nice.
And we were talking yesterday, and she was like, "Wow, what a difference in my hunger." She said, "My hunger, there was times I was so hungry on the drops, and now with the injection," she says, "I would forget to eat."
Yeah.
She would have to remind, and that she found herself kind of doubling up sometimes at night, like her vegetables and things, and sometimes her fruit, like an
Right.
hour apart, because she
Yeah.
would forget to eat. So that, I
Wow.
mean, that speaks volumes, I
Right.
think. Yeah.
Interesting. What dosage were you on with the injections that was so
Um,
good for you?
Both rounds were different. Both rounds I started at the 12 and a half.
So
Both
125 IUs.
25
Okay.
IU. Yes,
Okay.
both rounds I started there. The first
Okay.
round I started at 125. I was about 7 days in. I thought, okay, I think I'm getting a little, like, I can feel hunger pains a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I went up to 135 and ended up settling in at 130.
Nice.
And I stayed at 130 the whole time. And then the second round, I went in at 125 again and stayed at 125 the entire time and never had a hunger pain at all. Never. I
Cool.
mean, it was crazy. It was so good.
That's awesome. I know, and you're lucky that you found the right dose right off the bat, pretty much too.
Yeah.
So, because
Yeah.
some of you guys might be doing injections and you might be hungry and you might be like, "What? Why am I hungry right now?" So,
Hmm.
okay, so go to my blog post hcgchica.com/dosage. It's actually I was gonna try to print it out the other day and it was gonna be like 50 pages. That's crazy, but it's a very long blog post, but it's very detailed and it helps you figure out how to dial in your dosage because dosage changes, as she was just mentioning, affect your hunger level. So if you're really hungry, it's really that your dosage is off most likely. And when you make these tiny changes, you'd be surprised. Like
Yeah,
you wouldn't believe it. You're like, how can that tiny change like change my hunger?
it
Whatever. And
does.
it does. Like
Yeah.
what? Like
And
I
even,
get why doctors don't believe it works sometimes. Like weight loss clinics, sadly, sometimes the personnel they do it because it makes money. They haven't actually done the protocol. I don't know that they
mhm.
believe it works. So, but they're willing to prescribe it. But yeah, so they don't realize that these dosage changes because they haven't experienced it, and it is hard to believe, but
Yeah.
it really does.
And it's funny how if you have too much, you'll be hungry too.
Yes, yes,
Don't understand that. They're like,
right.
and they'll keep increasing.
Like
And
more is better.
yeah, because like you said, they go to some of these clinics, and these clinics, they
Right.
just don't give the
Yeah.
right about. If I can leave anybody with anything, do your research.
Yeah.
Watch videos. Watch all of Razel's videos. I mean, watch just learn from other people, because it's so important to be informed, because you're not,
Yeah.
you're not always going to get the best information out there, even from a doctor,
Right.
or a clinic. You're
Right.
not always going to get the best information. So I think, we have to take it upon ourselves to do the research and to find what works for us. And I think
Yeah.
you'll be so much happier.
Yeah, no, that's such good advice because I mean, we're the ones that have to live with the results of whatever happens. Like, no
Yeah.
doctor has to live with it, so
Yeah.
it's not going to really fully matter to them too much,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
sometimes I almost think like they, I see some people that are on 200 IU. Oh, that's what the clinic told me to do.
That's
Yeah,
pretty
well,
standard.
that's
Yeah,
what they told you to do, because they want you to come back
yeah,
and do another round. You're gonna run out of hCG in no time, and then
right.
you're
Yeah,
gonna, so
yeah.
it's
And then
sad.
so it's like, and there are occasions when like a higher dosage does work. It's just that a
Yeah.
lot of people do really do far better on a much lower one. It's just so it's
Yeah.
just for them. I think cost wise, they can't really deal with constantly trying to change stuff one on one with every patient. I That's my guess too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's too much time for them. They'd have to charge
Yeah.
like
It's
three
very
grand
stressful.
or
Yeah.
so but that's another good reason to like, yeah, do your own research like you said.
Mhm.
So that's really good. Yeah, so these were all good thoughts. Another thing I wanted to mention was since you talked about the 2 versus 3 day load idea,
Mhm.
um, I do have another blog post about that, just in case you guys were wondering, like, oh, what should I do? So we'll link to that blog post too. Just a way to like maybe gauge whether or not you need to do 2 or 3 days. Like for me, my final round, I considered doing 3 days, but when I woke up on the morning of the third day, and this is how I wrote it in the blog post, I mean, I just still felt stuffed. Like,
Mhm.
so for me, I felt like, you know what? I think that's a good indicator that I'm good to go. Like, if I'm
Absolutely.
waking up after 2 days of loading and I'm just feeling like I'm still stuffed,
Hmm. Yeah. And I
so
had I had a similar experience as I watched that. I
yeah.
watched all of your stuff, but you had mentioned the 2 day versus the 3 day load, and in my early rounds, I loved the 3 day load because
Yeah.
I loved the extra day
Extra
of an
day to pig
excuse.
out.
Yeah, to
Woo!
eat everything and anything that I wanted. And
Yeah.
I think, again, mentally, I was at the point where I was mentally healthy enough, in my mind, that I kind of realized that I'm probably doing the 3 day loads because I want to have an extra day to eat. So when I started
Yeah.
to do the cleaner loads, and again the injections, because I had that little bit of morning sickness feeling, I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm just done with this loading. And I,
Right.
like you, I felt completely full. I
That's
had
cool.
no hunger, and I was ready to go. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Good. Yeah, those are all great thoughts. That's great. All right. So that was all good. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about phase 3 a little bit? Is that okay? I don't know if
Yeah,
we've covered
sure.
that too detailed. Because so you've had 2 phase 3s now. Sorry, talk. Phase 3 nows. No, I can't talk. Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, you've been in phase 3 twice.
Right.
And after 2 injection rounds, and it sounds like you've been maintaining really well.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
mentioned one thing about kind of realizing you don't necessarily need like bacon and everything, which you can have, but like she
Yeah.
was realizing, like, hey, I'm not a bacon person. So, what was your approach? I guess you actually did talk about having good, healthy fats, and I guess you did share a lot of that. Yeah, were
I
there any other thoughts on like maybe just your first week of P3? Did you ease into anything or just kind of,
I've had I think I mentioned in my first injectables round, I kind of went fruitless. I did
okay,
one fruit a day.
okay,
And then towards the latter part of the round, I decided, I'm going to cut out all the fruit. And I've never done the Melba or the
right,
Orsini or whatever. I've never done that. Even when I was eating mustard packets, I
yeah,
never did that. Only because, again, that's my trigger food
yeah,
is carbs and starch. But so that first injectables round, I did, I limited my fruits, and then just totally got rid of them. And I did have that glycogen, is that what you said? That
oh,
spike.
glycogen storage,
I
well,
had
billing,
that spike in
yeah,
P3. It was
gotcha,
very frustrating for me when I first went into P3, because I thought, okay, I did the injectables round, and now P3 should be a breeze for
yeah,
me, and I've got my mind right, I
yeah,
had all my ducks in a row,
yeah,
and that's the way I am. I'm
yeah,
very structured.
cool,
So I thought P3 was just going to be a breeze, and all of a sudden I was up immediately 2 pounds.
yeah,
And I was frustrated, so of course I turned to you, and you gave me the answer,
oh
and I was like,
no,
okay, instead of battling, because I'm like, instead of battling these steak and doing steak days and egg days, I'm going to, go with the fact that my body's just going to stabilize a couple of pounds higher, and I'm
Yeah.
going to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And once I got my mind straight around that, I pretty much breezed through the rest of P3, again, eating the, just the really healthy fats,
Right.
lots of salmon, tuna, things like that.
Yeah.
Not eating and of course I did have a little bit of cheese, and
Yeah.
in the beginning, like I said, I did have some bacon, but then I
Yeah.
realized, I'm not a huge bacon person. I do like my cheese,
Yeah.
but I ate lower fat cheeses, like not low fat, never low fat, because
Just
that's
regular. Yeah.
chemicals.
Yeah.
But like mozzarella, mozzarella cheese, I would have cheese stick or something like that. But I wasn't making like the big fathead pizzas and the cream cheese pizzas and all that.
Yeah.
I love cauliflower pizza. Big
Ooh,
fan of cauliflower.
nice.
Cauliflower is like the miracle food.
Yes.
I'll make I even make the cauliflower mashed potatoes, and I put a little bit of avocado in it too, just to make it a little bit creamier texture. But
Yeah, nice.
I found that kind of satiated that craving that I would have for pizza. I would just make the cauliflower pizza or the cauliflower breadsticks. But I did, if I wanted to have, like I said, if I wanted to have some cheesecake, I would just make a low calorie version, or the P3 cheesecake, and have
Yeah.
that. But again, never every single day, not,
Right.
wouldn't sit down to a hunk of that.
Yeah.
But, that's kind of how how my P3 went. And then, so I was much more prepared. And like I said, my last round, I did eat the watermelon. So I was not fruitless.
Yeah.
And when I went into P3, I continued to eat the watermelon. I eat
Yeah.
watermelon almost every day, and so I do have fruit in phase three.
Yeah.
I found that phase three is a big balance for me. It's just a balance of making sure that you have fat every single day,
Right.
but really good healthy fats.
Right.
And if there is a day that I want to have like that little piece of cheesecake, that's a higher fat day for me.
Right.
So if I do a higher fat day, I won't eat 2 helpings of watermelon. Like I won't
Smart.
have, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's just it's just a balance
It
for my
is.
body. I think everybody's body's a little bit different,
It
and it's
is.
part of the journey to figure out what works for you.
Right.
But for me, that's kind of what works.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's good to share. Um, I know that's actually been one of the challenges of, I'm designing the phase 3 meal plan, and it's hard because there's really no way to guarantee anything, first of all,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
this isn't customized to each individual. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, every person's body is different. So it's like I can only really create one layout, but at least it's gonna be like the bones. I feel like it'll be a bones. Like this will
Mm-hmm.
be a structure you can try, and then you can adjust things as needed,
Right.
based on what you discover. Because it is true, and that's smart of you to know that if you're going to do higher fat one day, to kind of lower the carbs to
Right.
compensate. That's very smart, because like Dr. S said, and I think he's right, is that when you combine carbs and fat, that's when you start getting in trouble. Like
Yep.
when the calories go up and those two together, and then that's like
Mm-hmm.
all hell breaks loose. So,
Yeah, and he's totally right. That at least that
yeah,
he nailed it with my body. And I do eat Ezekiel bread too.
cool.
But like you said, I was very slow with adding it in. I
Yeah,
never added in until like the last, like I added it in this week. I'm on my third week of P3.
yeah,
This is, for my last round. And so I started experimenting. I bought the Ezekiel English muffins, and I have a half. I'd
cool.
have a half, in the morning, if I want breakfast, I'll have a half of that, and I put my, coconut butter on it,
Yeah,
and then I'll have like a 2 ounce scoop of the Siggy's. I think it was Bella that
yeah,
mentioned that Sky or that Siggy's yogurt. It's
uh-huh,
like Icelandic yogurt. It's
yeah,
so good.
awesome.
4% milk fat yogurt. I'll have a little scoop of that, and and it's been fine. My weight is, it hasn't fluctuated, but I would
That's
never
great.
like add the Ezekiel bread on a day again, like if I was having a piece of cheesecake at night,
Yeah,
because that mixture just sometimes does not work out, and you
right.
might see a jump on the scale the next day.
Yeah, those are good thoughts. I know. And then as far as, it's nice to hear your contrast too between P3 after a round with not really any fruits or much less, and then
Mhm.
P3 after a round with the fruit, because it sounds
Yeah.
like in that case it was pretty stable right away.
Yeah. Yeah, right away.
And so yeah, so that really is good to know, you guys, that if you don't do fruits in phase 2, which I have a blog post about and can be really great, you just do have to be aware of that. Like she said, it's called glycogen stores. It's It's like sugar water that we store in our muscles and our liver. And when you go low carb enough, your body uses those up and it makes you look really thin too. But the thing is you can't like you can't overcome like the science of your body. So
Yeah.
that's just those are just liquid stores that as soon as you have enough carbs, your body's immediate thing it does with it is it takes it and it refills those stores because it's typically usually what your body uses. Like if you're going to be hungry for a while, that's like fuel that your body has to use for
Right.
glucose. Yeah, so it's totally a natural thing, but your body will need to refill those glycogen stores, and there's no way getting around that, like unless you're just perpetually never eating carbs forever, like
Right.
So
Right.
and
Which
there's
is
no
so
need to do
unrealistic.
that. Yeah, um, so keep that in mind, and it doesn't have to be a reason to not do that tactic. It's
Mhm.
because you're gonna basically what's happening is you're gonna superficially lose a little more in that round.
Mhm.
And so you're just regaining what you superficially lost. So it's like in
Yeah.
a room where she ate the fruits, she just didn't lose any extra superficial weight to regain. So that's why it stayed the same. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully
And
that makes
in
sense.
that round that I didn't do the fruits, I was constantly using those the sticks that you pee on,
Oh, the
the
ketone strips.
ketone sticks,
Mm-hmm.
and I was dark purple. I mean,
Yeah.
because I had no carbs. I was
Right.
having
Yeah.
no carbs at all. So
Yeah, and it
yeah.
can be great for not feeling hungry and for getting rid of cravings and all of that. So, but exactly, you just want to know that so that in P3 you're not having a like weird emotional moment, like what
And I
is
did. Yeah,
going
I
on?
did. I was like
Yeah,
crazy. I'm like, what is going on? This just is not going to work for me. I was getting like
yeah.
all emotional about it, and then you brought me back to reality, and I was
Good,
like,
good. I'm
okay, this is
glad.
going to be fine.
Yeah, so it's nice when you find out that there's a logical explanation and it's not bad. Like,
Yeah.
whew, okay.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
was curious. You mentioned the pumpkin cheesecake a couple of times. Was that a certain recipe that you followed or one you made up or?
Oh yeah, I mean it's like so incredibly simple. I can write it down. I
Can we
mean
have a link to it
yeah,
or
yeah,
something?
I can write
Okay.
it down. I'm Italian. I don't measure anything, but I can make one and write it
Well,
down, and
if you would, we would put it on the blog, and I bet everyone would love to make that for a P3 treat. So,
sure,
so
sure.
if you guys might check, it might be there. Awesome.
Absolutely.
That's great. Well, those are good thoughts. Now, so have you spent a little time in phase 4?
I did.
A little bit?
The last one, because when you're doing the injections, you have to have 6 weeks in between.
Yeah.
So I did my P3 for basically. I mean, I really did it P3 for 6 weeks with some P4 additives in the last three
Okay.
weeks. I wanted to test the waters, especially
Yeah.
right before I knew I was gonna go into my final round.
Right.
I was like, okay, you know what? Today I never on the same day, but again,
Yeah.
one morning I got up and I thought, I'm really craving an everything bagel from like my favorite bagel place.
Yeah.
So I went, and it's actually called a flagel. It doesn't have as much of the dough. It's like a flattened bagel.
Okay.
So I went and I got an everything, flagel, and I
Yeah.
put my Kerrygold butter. I didn't, slather it up with cream cheese or anything, but I had that, and that was, and then I just ate my regular P3 kind of foods.
Yeah.
And the next morning I got up, and to my surprise, no weight gain. I was very happy
Woohoo!
about that. And then
Nice.
a few days later, I was like, I want a Jersey Mike's roast beef and provolone sub. And I used to eat I could eat a whole provolone sub. This
Yeah.
time just a half of a sub, enough, again, eating to hunger, being completely satisfied with eating, half the portion. But I ate that that day. And, for dinner that night, I had salmon, very, just made sure that I kept my fat and everything in check.
Yeah.
And again, everything was fine the next day.
That's
So
so
it was
great.
good.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. No, it's good to hear that because I think people want to know that too. Like, will I ever be able to have a carb again? Or will I ever
Yeah.
be able to eat a cookie?
Yeah,
Like most
absolutely.
people, yeah, can. It's just like you said, like just balancing it out, and it really becomes natural to do that. I do the same thing. I really like to get a grilled cheese sandwich sometimes. I would get with gluten-free bread, but so I get it. Usually they serve it with 4 slices of cheese, and I just get mine with two. And
Mhm.
honestly, it tastes the same. Like, so
Exactly.
I'll do that. And
Mhm.
then I'll come home and have like a chicken breast, because it's a nice lean meat, so it's very low
Right.
calorie but high protein. Because a grilled cheese sandwich is like totally not enough protein for
Yeah.
me. So, but that's why like I get to go there, I get to have my grilled cheese sandwich, and it's like so satisfying. And then I compensate with the lean meat for the protein, and
Right.
and it totally works out. Um, versus I couldn't have the, the grilled cheese and then a big ribeye like at the same. Like that'd be
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the I think that's the key to it. It's
mhm,
just that balance. And
yeah,
you said something very good. Protein, protein, protein. If I can stress to anybody enough,
yeah,
don't no matter what you do during the day, don't cut back on your protein. Your body needs that
right,
so bad. Just make sure you're eating your lean proteins and always drink your water.
yeah,
Even if it's 9 o'clock at night and you're getting ready to go to bed and you
yeah,
feel like you haven't had enough water, make sure you get your water in. It's so
yeah.
important, and you won't get the leg cramps and the whole 9 yards that you get with that. But
That's
it's
true.
it helps with. I think when people transition out of phase 2, a lot of times they go into phase 3 and they're like, oh, good, I don't have to drink my 64 ounces or whatever
Yeah,
of
right.
water. That's such a big part of maintaining, is making
Yeah.
sure that you carry that healthy habit into phase 3 as well as into life.
I know, I have to admit, the one thing I'm so bad about that I need to work on is my water intake. It's like
I I
I
am
am
too.
chronically dehydrated, I think, and I'm like every time I read this or hear this, I'm like, I need to do that. Like I'm such a bad example in that regard.
I can be too. It's totally from
But no, I
experience.
mean you're right. I think
I'm
it's
not
so
calling
important.
I'm not calling anybody out because I do it too. I
Yeah,
noticed, like even today, I'm like, I think I've only drank probably 32 ounces. I need
yeah,
when we're done here, I need to make sure, even though it's
yeah.
late, I need to make sure I get my water in, because if not, I'm not going to be happy with the scale tomorrow.
Yeah, I know. And one way that makes it easier for me to drink water, which I need to take my own advice, is like sometimes I'll just put a little drop. Well, you wouldn't do this because you don't like stevia, so
I don't. Yeah.
not Denise. Everyone but Denise.
But
Like a
I do have a drop.
oh, good,
You probably use the stevia drops, the flavored
good.
stevia drops. You use the slur or the stir or whatever it's.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
slur. Yep.
I use the Capellas.
Oh, right. Okay,
Oh,
Capella
they're
flavor
so
drops.
yes, they're so
Nice.
good. And my
Cool.
favorite, just to
Yeah.
name
What's
my
your
favorite,
favorite?
is the blue raspberry cotton candy.
Oh
It
my
is
gosh, that sounds so
it's
good.
so good, and it's just an essence. It has no sweetener or anything.
Right.
But even if you're just smelling it, the smell of it makes it feel like it's
Right.
something better than it is.
Cool.
And in phase 2, a lot of times I would take like a big jug of water, and I bought the Zephyr Hills because would have the wide mouth at the top,
Yeah.
and I would peel off the skin of an orange and then put some cinnamon sticks in the water and then let it sit overnight.
Oh, that
And you
sounds.
can just keep refilling that bottle.
Yeah.
It gives it just a little something,
No,
that orange
yeah.
rind and the cinnamon, just it tastes good.
Nice. No, that's such a good idea. Okay, so all of that will be in the show notes. The idea about the orangey cinnamony thing, that sounds
Yeah.
great. And then the blue raspberry Capella drops. Yeah. And with the Capella drops too, it's nice because like she said, they're not sweetened. It's just flavor. They always
Mm.
explain that because because people get confused. So if you want to add a little of a sweetener, like a little erythritol
Yeah.
or xylitol, you can,
Mhm.
or just have the flavor. So, but it
Yeah.
does make water go down more smoothly, I notice. I don't know why, but
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it definitely does. So, and also the protein, I'm glad you brought that up about getting enough protein. That's actually one thing on the meal plan that I'm designing for phase 3. I was very, very like strategic and careful about making it have a certain amount of protein each week in each meal.
Right.
Um, and like when I'm working with the recipe creator, like I would make adjustments because I'm like, okay, that's not enough protein for this
Mm.
meal because then the whole day ends up being this amount. And so it can actually, it's like, it can be hard. Like if you're not actually thinking about it, it's very
Mhm.
easy to undereat protein, is what I realized. And
Yeah,
I
and
thought I'm a meat eater. Like,
yeah, and it can cause a gain.
hmm,
Surprisingly enough, if you do not get enough
right.
protein in your body, you
Yeah.
can gain on the scale the next day, and you're like, "But I didn't really hardly eat yesterday." Well,
Yeah.
that doesn't
Hmm.
always work.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, those are all good thoughts too.
Mhm.
Well, you know what? We're almost done. You know what I wanted? Maybe we could just talk about this last thing about like your memories of life pre changing your body, how things are different for you now, and because you also mentioned your mindset about being kind of stuck on a number at first, and maybe you could share your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I when I first started the journey, I again, you in your mind you start to envision what it's going to be like, down the road, because you see so many people that have gone down this road before you, and you see their successes. So, I would just say, don't get stuck on a number. Just enjoy the ride, because it really is. It's so everybody's journey is unique to them, and even if it's bumpy, and even if you stumble, because we all stumble, um, don't get a set number in your mind. Just say, I'm going to do one round at a time. I'm going to do this round. And don't even, again, a lot of times people are like, I have to lose 30 pounds in a round. That's not always going to be the case. Your first round, you might lose 30 pounds, but your second round, you might lose 20 pounds, and if you put a set number in your mind, you set yourself up for disappointment. You should always have goals. I mean, definitely have goals, but um, I just wanted to be healthy. I wanted to start this. I wanted to feel good in my skin. I wanted to feel good about myself, because I think when you start to lose weight, you start to gain confidence. I mean,
Yeah,
that's definitely
that's
been
cool.
something that I've found in myself. I found
Good.
my voice. I found my
That's
confidence.
good.
And that's huge. So,
Yeah.
rather than say I want to be 130 pounds, or I want to be 135 pounds, just say I want to do this round. I want to stay as pop as I can be,
Right.
perfectly on protocol. Try to add in a few of the things if you want to add those things in.
Yeah.
Don't get disappointed if you don't reach 30 pounds in this round or what. Just be happy with
Yeah.
every round, and do the best that you can do.
Right.
I found that's the way that I've been able to keep my sanity. I love my new life. I love my new body. I'm very happy. We're so critical of ourselves.
Yeah.
We look at every little thing. I
Yeah.
think women especially,
Yeah.
we're very critical of ourselves, and you have to put all that aside and be happy with your journey, be happy with what you're doing, and know that every round that you do, you're better off than you were in the very beginning.
Right.
So,
No,
yeah.
exactly. That's so true. Yeah, you're gonna achieve results. You may not know exactly how many pounds, but it's gonna be better than if you were not doing anything and or a traditional protocol or something. So, well,
Yeah.
that's good. That was a lot of good stuff that we covered. Um, well, are there any last thoughts? I guess we covered just about everything.
I think we did. I definitely think we did. If I just going back, if I could tell anybody anything, eat your protein, drink your water, enjoy the ride, educate yourself, watch a lot of videos,
Yeah.
it's a great experience. Document, take pictures.
Yeah,
That's so fun to
it
take a
is.
picture of yourself in the beginning, and then after the first round, after the second round, be able to go back and see how far you've come. Because sometimes the mirror can be very tricky with you,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
and even the scale, I think a lot of people, when they start to exercise, they start to gain a little bit of weight.
Oh yeah.
The scale can be funny, the
Oh
mirror
yeah.
can be funny at times, but when you go back to your pictures, and you see how far you've
Right.
come, you're like, wow, that's great, that's crazy,
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, actually, because I do the heavy weightlifting, so I do have quite a bit more muscle mass than I did, and I actually have some photos I'm hoping to share on the blog with kind of a 4-year post HCG update, and um, so actually my thighs are bigger, a little bigger now than when I finished HCG, even though my body fat percent's lower, and I have actually the same fat or less fat, because of the muscle does still take up space.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I had to, like, those types of things I had to mentally process for a while. Like,
Yeah.
okay, like, is this what I want? And if I don't, what does that mean? Well, that would mean I'd have to stop weightlifting as heavy, which, you know what, I really love doing. So it's not important enough to me to just have a 1 inch smaller thigh and
Right.
have to stop my weekly thing I do. So I had to process those things because you might
Yes.
choose the other way, which would be fine. But it was like, you know what? I'm okay. And then I have like photos of like before I had my muscle mass tone, before I did a couple more rounds of hCG. So it was kind of like I was kind of at like what you might call a normal weight,
Mm-hmm.
but I had a lot more fat though
Mm-hmm.
to muscle ratio, and so the look of my legs is very different. Like because the fat does look different. So even though my thighs are thicker now, they're muscular. It's
They're
just different.
defined. Yes.
Yeah, so it is interesting, and you just have to process all those things in your head, and
Yeah.
just
Taking pictures. I mean,
yeah,
as a
because it is. It's like wow, I definitely, even though they're bigger, they don't look. There's no
yeah, it's
hanging
like this looks
fat.
better.
Yeah, no, it does look better. It's interesting. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, just
Cool.
don't beat yourself up over things. Document everything. Enjoy every bit of it because it is fun, and you meet so many people along the way,
Yeah.
and you build relationships with people that you never would have met if you didn't take the same journey. So
Right. Yeah.
that's been so much fun. I've got friends, people that I talk to, even we instant message and we FaceTime, and and we do things like that that I met through doing this that I
Nice.
never would have met if I didn't do this. So
That's awesome. Yeah, that's I mean just like on Instagram, like
mhm.
Denise is on Instagram, and if you go to my Instagram, hCG Chica, anybody who's like liked my photos, most of them are hCG people because
Yeah,
why would they be following me otherwise? So you can go find them and follow them and see how their journeys are
absolutely.
going.
Yeah, and I post, sometimes I post some of my recipes and pictures of food and things like
Yeah.
that.
Do
Yeah,
you want
so
us to put your Instagram in your interview notes?
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
What is
Yeah,
it? What's your name?
it's uh, it's Denise Lee Cox.
Okay, there we go.
I'm very simple. I keep everything so simple. Yeah,
Denise Lee Cox, you guys, but the actual link will be in the show notes. But if you're listening to the podcast version, Denise Lee Cox.
yeah,
I think we can all spell that. That's pretty good. That's pretty
yeah,
straightforward. Well, to close, I just thought maybe if it's okay, I'll read one of the things Denise wrote just about important keys to success on hCG. She's probably like, what did I write? It's good, I promise. I just like what she says. Just don't give yourself an excuse to cheat or give up. Don't start around with a planned interruption in mind. Carve out the time to do this for you. I'm a busy working mom of twins, and I commute 120 miles a day to and from work. If I can do it, you can do it. What I mean by that is if you commit to doing a round, see it through no matter what. So I just liked those thoughts, that we all have reasons to say that we can't do it or that it's too hard or that we're justified in cheating
yeah,
but we can choose. We can
yeah.
choose, you know.
Choose you. Choose to be
Yes.
happy.
And later it's gonna really pay off. So
Absolutely,
good.
absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for being with me today. That was awesome.
Thank you too.
We
I
ha-
enjoyed it.
Oh no, this was yeah, we talked about so many great things. So you guys, this was episode 46. If you want to see the other 45 episodes we've done, you could listen to one a day on a 6-week round at this
Do
point.
it. I'll do it.
Yeah, so that's at hcgchica.com/interviews. They're all there, they're all free, and they're all around 45 minutes to an hour or so. And yeah, just lots of good stories of people's weight loss. So, all right, well, I will catch you next time.
Bye.